Hi, I'm Caitlin Moroney with the Global Voices interview series here with Chris Wheat. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So you just spoke on the panel at the Climate Change Forum, and my first question for you is, how do your former positions as an investment bank analyst and financial consultant inform your work as Chicago's Chief Sustainability Officer?
So I think that my previous time in finance and also in management consulting helped in terms of thinking through problems from a quantitative lens. We're at the University of Chicago, so everything goes through a quantitative lens, and really helps in terms of thinking through the problem solving aspect. So just not going directly to the answer, but how do we actually determine when we have a problem, what are the various causes of that, how do we think through solutions, what are the implications of those solutions today, tomorrow, and on down the road. I actually think that my management education here at the University of Chicago has come in handy quite a bit, particularly the classes I took on psychology and cognitive behavior and behavioral economics, because the thing that I spent a lot of my time on today in my job is working with people and individuals that sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't agree, and so how do we come to mutual agreement on solutions and ideas and philosophies and try to move the city's sustainability agenda forward.
So what drew you to a career in sustainability in particular?
So when I joined the mayor's office roughly 5 years ago, I joined an internal consulting and implementation team called the Innovation Delivery Team. It was funded by Mayor Bloomberg, and the premise of the team was how do we develop in city halls all around the country teams that are using data-driven, thoughtful processes to actually develop, to come up with solutions. And one of the areas that the mayor was really passionate about was energy efficiency. He thinks about it not only in terms of helping landlords, single-family homeowners, and business owners reduce their cost, reduce the cost of living, reduce the cost of conducting business, but also because of the economic engine that it creates. So studies show that for pretty much every $1 million that is invested in energy efficiency, we create 11 jobs. And those jobs not only are engineers and architects, but folks who are installing insulation into walls, and folks putting windows into homes, the kinds of jobs that my parents had when I was growing up. And so being able to be a part of not only something that has long-term benefits for our environment, but also has short-term benefits for Chicago's economy seemed to be a really great opportunity.
So which of Chicago's sustainability-oriented projects do you think have been the most successful so far?
So I think when thinking about building energy, I think the city has made tremendous progress, and we need to do that. Our last inventory of greenhouse gas emissions showed that the vast majority of our emissions comes from building energy use. And so the mayor has put together a comprehensive strategy on building energy use, reducing the energy use of city buildings through an interesting initiative from the Chicago Infrastructure Trust, where we're using private capital to invest dollars to reduce energy use in public buildings, through the residential partnership, which brings together nonprofits and utilities to create a one-stop shop for landlords and single-family homeowners who are interested in reducing their energy use. That program has touched over 100,000 homes or units around the city over the last 4 years, and it's retrofitted over 22,000. The mayor also has his what we call the Retrofit Chicago Energy Challenge. And that really works with large buildings, many of which are commercial, but they include the library here on campus, cultural institutions, religious institutions, to work with those buildings where they make a commitment to reduce their energy use by 20% over 5 years. Then utilities and architects and engineers work with them to figure out how best to get that energy use down. We have 62 buildings in the program today, 43 million square feet. We're seeing significant savings coming from those buildings.
Perfect. So you spoke about this a bit on the panel, but is there any push to collaborate or implement programs that have worked well in other cities here in Chicago?
So I think that we're always looking to learn from other cities and our counterparts around the country and around the world. So Chicago is an active member of the C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group, which is a partnership of large cities from around the world to share best practices, information, and stories about what works and sometimes what doesn't. I think a perfect example of that was I was recently talking to one of my counterparts in New York. And so they have, much like we do, they have a energy benchmarking ordinance where they require buildings to track and report and verify their energy use to the city, very large buildings, 50,000 square feet and above. And so we took a lot of what New York put together for that ordinance and we put it into ours. And we were talking about how New York actually took a lot of our work around voluntary commitments for different types of buildings and creating wraparound services, if you would, for those buildings. So they took a lot of that work from Chicago and they've done that for universities, healthcare institutions, and whatnot. So there's an active dialogue with cities around the world, and also with cities that are closer, folks like Detroit, Cleveland, Cincinnati.
I believe this question came up on the panel as well, but just again, how is your sustainability agenda for Chicago influenced by the national sustainability agenda or policies or multinational agreements such as the Paris Climate Conference?
So I think that we're grateful for the leadership that President Obama and the global community has shown around the importance of reducing emissions through the Paris Accord, through the work of the State Department and others on COP21. And so setting that framework and setting those ambitious targets makes it easier to operate and also shines a light at a national and global level at the importance of this issue. At the city level, we know that it's not only about emissions, but also about quality of life. And even when President Obama talks about these initiatives, you hear similar things from Mayor Emanuel about things like air pollution. How do we reduce the number of asthma attacks? How do we create a 21st century economy? So for the president and for world leaders to really be banging the drum, if you will, on these issues, I think is very important. The responsibility that falls to cities then is to create innovative concepts, ideas, and policy that make sense for our city in particular. We're not going to do everything that New York does. We're not going to do everything Jakarta does. We're not going to do everything that Seoul does. We can learn from each other, but we also ultimately have to craft solutions that make sense for Chicago. And
finally, what is on the mayor's sustainability agenda, or what goals do you have for the next year?
Well, we have a few things going on right now in a lot of different areas. I talked about energy. We're looking at expansion of our residential and commercial programs. Also in energy, and it speaks to infrastructure. The Chicago Infrastructure Trust has been working on a very large project to retrofit the city streetlights. To convert them to LED. You're looking at, almost 300,000 lights to be converted over the next 4 to 5 years. That's a significant capital project and a significant lift. In regards to parks and open spaces, the mayor has set an ambitious agenda with building on Burnham to increase the amount of natural acreage here in the city so that all Chicagoans can enjoy nature. We also have the Great River Chicago Plan, which talks about the different amenities and work that needs to happen to make the entirety of the Chicago River accessible. On transportation, the Divvy program has really been a tremendous success. I think that over the next year, there's going to be a continued push to expand that program to the south and west sides. Already 2/3 of Chicago can access the program. We know that we need more people to access it as well. And also working on creating more protected bike lanes, the Divvy for All program that works with low-income individuals who may not have a credit card, which is a critical part of using a Divvy and giving them access as well. So there's a lot going on. It's been a busy 2016, and we suspect it'll be a busy 2017 as well.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Great. Thank you. It's been my pleasure.